I have been talking about the trad wife to poverty pipeline or the trad wife to single mother pipeline for a few months now. And I keep talking about it because so many people, so many women keep dropping their commentary, their own story times. But I also talk about it because there are so many people that seem to get irritated with the fact that I'm even telling women to have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, L, M, N, O, P. I keep talking about it because it's like, why do y'all have such an issue with me telling women to have a plan B? But I was sent this article from Board Panda, and it's basically a compilation of comments that are talking about the experiences of actual trad wives from the 20th century. Okay, so let's get into this article. It says there are so many trends online that it might be difficult to keep up. But if you spent at least some time on social media lately, you might have seen a woman or two making something from scratch in the kitchen dressed as someone straight from the 1950s. If you are wondering if time travel has suddenly become a thing, you're not mistaken. It's not that. It's the so called trad wives taking the internet by storm, shedding light on a lifestyle based on traditional gender roles, well, cooking stuff from scratch. With the woman in the family being dependent on the man, the sole breadwinner in the household, it resembles to some extent at least women's lives back in the 50s, but the two aren't entirely the same. If you're wondering what some of the differences are, or what actual housewives from the 50s would like to say to their 21st century counterparts, scroll down, find their messages. These were shared on Reddit. So I don't know why this man got to be number one, but he is. He says, I'm not a woman, so this will rightly languish down the bottom of the page. But the trad wife resurgence among young women, especially as it's emerging from the right, is not yet old enough to have experienced that next step after trad wife is trad betrayed wife in an anti-divorce culture, because we are certainly in that no fault, people trying to get rid of no fault divorce and all that kind of stuff. We have number two. My grandmother raised 5 kids on the prairies in the 40s. She worked from before dawn until midnight. She almost died from one home birth and had to get up with a broken pelvis 2 days later to help with the farm. She wasn't allowed to wear pants or cut her hair and slaved her entire life. She had little or no agency in anything. Don't be like that. Number 3, not me. I got married in the 90s, but all the women in my grandmother's generation, my grandmother's and mother's generation, fit that bill. And they were miserable and trapped and dehumanized and left with no options, and it made them mean. They didn't choose that lifestyle, and they barely chose their husbands. They were forced into it by the lack of viable options and the pressures of their families. Most were just grateful to have found someone to support them without much regard for whether they like them or not. It's the choice that matters. As long as you choose that lifestyle and choose your partner and it makes you happy, terrific. But there are still people alive who would gladly force women back into having no choice and no options because that was easier for men. Be careful that you are not on a slippery slope back to that hellscape, because I'm here to tell you, I didn't know one happy woman in those generations. Number 4, my mom was a trad wife. Based on conversations with her over the years, she'd probably tell those young women, there's nothing wrong with learning and mastering the domestic arts. You should always be proud of yourself for learning new skills and keeping a nice home, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. Also applies here. In this modern age, things change so quickly. Relationships, geographic location, even family. You need to be comfortable having the skills to take care of yourself too, not just your house and your husband. It's much better to view homemaking as a hobby rather than raison d'etre. Raison d'etre, that's a reason to be. I just can't pronounce it that well. We did live that way because we had to, but people also used to drink wine because the water wasn't safe to consume. Just because it's traditional doesn't make it good. Number 5, my friend is a tiny bit older than I am, but was mother, homemaker, hostess for business dinners. Seriously, gave up her STEM job for the whole mom wife thing. Husband traded her in for a younger model after 27 years. I would never suggest anyone do this without a viable income. The actual percentage of women in the 50s who were living the way these trad wives claim to live now is incredibly low. And those women had no choice or agency in the matter. They couldn't apply for credit cards on their own or get a well paying job that would support them well to live well without a husband. So many of the women who have talked on my post talk about how they were up and left, how they were traded in, and how they were stuck dealing with the kids and on their own. So that's one of the reasons why I consistently say I want women to be able to survive and thrive regardless of relationship status, because that's the whole point. We need everybody to be able to live, thrive, and eat all of that, the human things, regardless of if they're married or not. So we cannot go back to women not having rights. We have been talking about women's unpaid and invisible labor. And I have talked about if women pulled back in organizations at work within the family dynamic, like outside of their homes, things would collapse because women do so much. We do so much that is unpaid and underappreciated. Now, this is a study out of Utah. It's talking about the hidden workforce and what women's labor is basically propping up. Childcare, elder care, housework, and other tasks are crucial to the foundations of strong families, communities, and nations. Such work is often termed unpaid or the work that makes all the other work possible. Women worldwide spend significantly more time than men performing these critical tasks. This happens for reasons such as personal values and choices, cultural and social norms, unconscious biases, and economic and employment considerations. It happens at work. We've talked about this on my pages where the women's tasks are like cleaning the microwave, making the coffee, making sure that the coffee maker is clean, and all of that stuff. Women are the ones that make the parties and do the anniversary things and all of that. Women do all of this unpaid and invisible labor. And like I said, you pull back, a lot of things are going to fall through the cracks. Okay. According to Oxfam, a global organization that works to fight inequality, the monetary value of women's unpaid work is estimated to be 10.8 trillion annually. This is a significant amount of work and money that needs to be recognized, understood, and appreciated, says Susan Madsen, Utah State University Utah Women in Leadership Project founding director and one of the 3 report authors. The Leadership Project recently released a research report examining unpaid care work in Utah in an effort to recognize its value and encourage a more balanced distribution between men and women. It provides an update to a 2017 Leadership Project report. The recent report states, in general, women spend 2 to 10 times more time on unpaid care work than men, depending on region and other factors. Women in the US who participate in unpaid work average 4.92 hours per day compared to 3.79 hours per day for men. However, in Utah, women spend 5.55 hours per day on unpaid work compared to 3.22 hours for Utah men. Childcare is one of the most common forms of unpaid work, which is significant since Utah has one of the highest fertility rates, the largest family size, and the largest share of women who work part-time in the nation. For some women, choosing to raise children full-time is fulfilling and empowering. For other mothers, a combination of raising children and employment is ideal, but finding affordable quality childcare is a challenge. Research shows that maternal and family well being increases when mothers can attain their preferred work situations. This is significant because the mother's mental well being directly affects the family. Another type of unpaid care work involves elderly relatives. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, there are 37.1 million elder care providers in the U.S. Almost 60% are women. Additionally, 14.4% of female elder care providers have provided care for 10 years or longer. A recent survey regarding Utahns' experiences report that 61.4% of caregivers are female. Nearly half, including men, work full time. So they're caregivers and they work. and 23% report spending more than 20 hours per week providing care, 97% of which is unpaid. An additional source of unpaid work is household management. Data suggests that the gap in time spent on housework between Utah men and women has narrowed in recent years, with Utah women spending 1.62 hours per day on housework and men spending 1.17 hours compared to the 1.88 and less than 1 hours, respectively, back in 2017. Relationships, households, and families typically require emotional and mental work, which is yet another form of unpaid work. Mental health professionals highlight that emotional work is truly work and it takes its toll. Women who bear a heavy share of unpaid work are vulnerable to decreased physical, emotional, and mental health well being. Even when men participate in the day to day work of running a household, women still often do the mental work, noticing, planning, managing, scheduling, organizing, and ensuring that needs are met. Consequently, women may not devote energy to their own economic and personal well being because of their many responsibilities. This part. Men spend more time doing paid work each day than women do, but when unpaid work is added in, women are working more hours a day than men. They are just not getting paid for it. This impacts women's financial futures. Women are subsidizing men's work because we're doing all of this unpaid work when we could be focusing somewhat on ourselves and ensuring that our finances are set up in retirement. But we can't do that because there's only so many hours in a day. And women are just not being paid. Men are working, but they're getting paid for their work. Salaries.com survey of mothers' job roles estimates that in 2021, the approximate median annual salary for a stay at home mother would be $184,820. While this exercise is mainly symbolic, it shows that outsourcing the unpaid work performed by women would be costly. The report suggests recommendations for Utahns in an effort to redistribute the load of unpaid labor, such as building social support networks, problem solving strategies, and communication for women and girls, encouraging companies to promote work family balance and create innovative solutions as families navigate paid and unpaid work, increasing access to affordable, flexible, and universal childcare, promoting awareness about gender roles and stereotypes, and promoting more balanced divisions of labor within households. Efforts to encourage a more balanced distribution of unpaid work between men and women include legislation and workplace initiatives, public discourse, and individual choices by family members themselves. It is well worth our efforts in these areas to help strengthen Utah families. And honestly, obviously, you can take out the Utah. You can just scratch that out. And we can talk about this overall. This is the reason why I keep saying, let these men hold their own nuts. You got to let them, and you have got to let these companies do the same. You got to pull way, way back. Stop volunteering so much. All your unpaid and volunteer efforts, they are going to support things that are making other people money. If you're doing all of this in your church, you are helping the church grow its bottom line because those pastors are making money. If you're doing this at work and you're not getting paid for it, your company's bottom line is growing. If you're doing all of the things at home or in your extended family, in your holiday where you're going to work, you're using your money to buy all of the groceries, you're using your time and energy to do all the cleaning and cooking and all of that. Stop doing so much. Because if it falls through the cracks and other people want to get it done, they will pick it up and start doing it as well. There has to start being some balance. And the weight of the world and all of the tasks has got to get lifted up off of women's shoulders. All right, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.